welcome to one of RVN's not as new, but still kind of new television shows, What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your business, your job, or even your life. At some point, all of our guests had something in common with you. They felt similarly, and today's guest is no exception. Today we're joined by Tannur. She writes Ali. Tannur is the founder and residential land steward for iLogic Sustainable Industries LLC, and wearer of many hats, including poet, mother, facilitator, and chief steward or coordinator of Solomon's Garden. Solomon's Garden is a 5-acre plot of land nestled deep in the woods of rural Alabama. To create space for the growth that is central to the mission of iLogic, participants will spend the coming years developing models of sustainable, multi-generational community building, which includes farming. iLogic stands for the Institute for the Love of Genius in Community. It began as a local community association in Albany, Georgia, founded in 2014 by Tannur, she writes Ali, and her mother. Now, I don't want to mispronounce her name. Is it Njamile?
Njamile.
Njamile. That's beautiful. Njamile Ali. It grew out of Tannur's desire to connect with her community in useful ways. At first, they called it the Neighbors Initiative as a way to gain the interest of neighbors in the 215 homes in their communities, and it grew to be so much more than that. After holding cooking classes, gardening classes, and organizing neighbors for community engagement in Tannur's home, they began searching for a location that was large enough to accommodate the needs that were arising. When they found it, they created the library and community gathering space with the support of an ambitious and hungry community poised for progress. Then the unexpected always happens. After a fire at the building in 2016, Tannur began a world schooling adventure with her 3 children. The tour, aptly named the Where is Home Project, became an 18-month boot camp to prepare for a new life of community service on a global scale. It would also lead her to, I believe this is pronounced, Utah, Alabama, from where she joins us today. Tannur has received a lot of recognition and praise for her transformative work, including being featured as a 2012 Who's Who of Poetry in the World Poetry Movement, the 2012 World Poetry Movement Best Poem of 2012, the 2015 iHeart Shiro Awards for the Arts. In 2016, Tannur was named AOMO International Poetry Slam Champion, and she was featured in 2017 at the UN Library in Geneva and at the Home for Humanity in Val-Romay, France. She's done so many amazing things during the course of her career and her life she's focused on initiatives that have included everything from social justice to women's rights to community responsibility to farming. You name it, Tannur's done it. And I'm really excited to have her joining me here via Zoom from Alabama, introduced through a mutual connection. So without further ado, please welcome Tannur Ali to our show. So thank you. Yay. Your audience of one. So welcome. I'm so glad we were able to do this. As I mentioned, now did I get that right? Was it Utah? Because it's like
That's
Utah,
right.
Alabama. So I read through this list, and this is just a portion of your life and story. So you're doing all of these things, from facilitating meetings for corporations to running this sustainability project, working with others who want to do the same. I mean, so many different things. And I always start off asking my guests what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I think our guests will be interested to hear your response.
I wanted to be a housewife. I wanted to have coffee ready before my husband woke up in the morning. And that was like a big thing in my mind. Along with, I've always had three or four goals. So I wanted to be a housewife. I also wanted to be an equestrian and train horses for therapy.
And
So that was,
you were born in Philly, so a lot of people, more recently because of some documentaries, people didn't necessarily associate equestrian with Philadelphia, PA, an urban environment. But you were passionate about horses from the get-go.
yes, yes. I always loved horses. They are still my favorite smell. Um, and I was fortunate to grow up in Philadelphia because the high school that I went to, Walter Biddle Saul High School of Agricultural Sciences, was one of the first of its kind, full full farm. At the time, I think it's grown since then, but at the time it was a 73-acre full service farm. We had dairy cattle, beef cattle, sheep, llamas, chickens, dogs, the whole nine, as well as a herd of horses that we cared for. And that really gave me the sense of capacity that it is possible for me to dream outside of the concrete jungle. And really dream myself into into the green jungle in real life. So yeah.
So how did you get from this really innovative high school education experience to Eustis, Alabama?
Well,
Or not Eustis, I'm sorry, I just pronounced it wrong, didn't I?
Utah.
Utah, there you go. Utah,
Yes.
Alabama. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That is a series of unfortunate events that turned out to be fortunate. I moved out of Philadelphia when I was 25 years old. Three children, six, three, and one at the time, and just really seeking a life that was going to expand us out of the limits that we were in. The relationship that I was in became unsafe for me and my children. And as a result, I could just see, and I don't know if this is a little harsh for this show, but I could see myself ending up as a blood stain on a mattress.
No, that's not too harsh. The show is all about authenticity and reality, and that has its positives and its challenges. And that's your truth. That's what you experienced. So, to the extent that you're willing to share, thank God you made it through.
Absolutely.
And you found...
And my children made it through, and they really helped to center me. At the time, 25 years old, at that time I thought that I should know exactly who I was and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I think there are a lot of people out there who step into what the society calls adulthood and then realize they have no idea who they are and what they want to explore. And so at that time, I took it as an opportunity to step into the possibility of whole new lives opening up in front of me. And I was fortunate because my mother and grandmother were at our family home in Albany, Georgia, and I had a place to go. And I packed those 3 suitcases, had $200 in my pocket after I sold everything in my apartment and got out of Dodge. And that was the most pivotal decision of my life. And once I got to Albany, I lived in Albany for 9 years and got to really explore who I was, got to be on the art scene, got to really pull my art out of me and allow my art to be the thing that transformed and transmuted all of that energy that came from such a difficult experience. And it turned into something beautiful. In Albany, I met some of the most influential people in my life who directed me really directed me down a path that led me to Alabama.
Which is interesting, because one of the questions I often ask are, who are some of the most influential people as part of your journey? So, to the extent that you're comfortable, feel free to talk about, you mentioned your mother, you've mentioned your grandmother, and then the community itself, which you became an integral part of. Both you flourished, but you also contributed to that flourishing in terms of initiatives that you yourself, as I mentioned earlier, helped coordinate and lead.
Absolutely. I've always been a little bit of a wild child. And so in Albany, when I got there and finally kind of settled into the fact that I was going to be creating a new life, one of the first things that I did was to sit down and try to figure out where the poets were. At 11 years old, my mom introduced me to spoken word and art galleries where people shared their poetry. She took me to the October Art Gallery in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And it was the first time at 11 I felt like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I'm meant to do. This is the gift that I've been given. And so my poetry has always been a key part of my life. It's always been my process for expansion and exploration of myself. And when I got to Albany, I needed to find the poet. It was it was necessary. And my mom said, well, why don't you call the colleges and see if maybe they have some poetry clubs? And I called several of the colleges in town. Albany is a college town. And one of those colleges was Darton. And I called the English department, and the woman who answered the phone, I was telling her I'm interested in finding poets. I want to know if there's a poetry group or a club or an open mic or anything. And she said, well, I'm a poet. Oh. And when I tell you that was the beginning of one of the most influential relationships in my life. Wow. Her name is Rosanna Almai, and she is a humanitarian, a patron of the arts, a fabulous poet, wow. A wonderful writer of prose and stories, and also a social justice activist. Oh. And she helped me to understand that the gifts that I've been given are necessary for me to share, not just for the benefit of expression and processing my own grief and emotions, but also to make sure that other folks out there know that there are people who can relate to them, and that they too can have the strength to step out of circumstances that are detrimental. And so she's one of the people. Capiche Peterson, who is my dearest friend and really just a wonderful person, and also my hairstylist. So I'm going to shout her out for that
plug
as
for
well.
That. Yeah.
Is, one of those people who made me understand what community looks like. And Albany is a difficult place to live. It might be because I'm a Yankee, it might be because I'm a little bit of a loudmouth. I'm not sure, but Albany I found to be a very difficult place to just handle basic business. Okay. It's like, there's this kind of rub in the interaction with folks. Okay. But it taught me grit. Yeah. It taught me that when I set out to do something, my job is to continue on that path until that thing is done. Okay. And when it's done, be able to recognize that.
Awesome. And we're going to pick up with that. Time for our mid-show break already. I always say time flies, and time flew yet again. And so we're going to talk about how your journey continued from Albany to Utah, Alabama, when we return from our commercial break. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann. And our guest today, Tannur, she writes Ali, who's the founder and residential land steward for iLogic Sustainable Industries, LLC. And before the break, she was sharing with us, life as a Yankee in Albany, in Georgia, can be a little bit challenging. And I've known other people from Georgia, and they've had similar expressions about making that transition. But Georgia was really just a stopping place along the way where you were influenced and supported by so many wonderful people. And then you grew programs and services for the community. You found a location, there was a fire, and now here you are pivoting again.
Yeah.
So how did you find the courage to just, as you put it, go on tour for 18 months with your children as part of educating them?
I'll tell you, when I was in Albany, one of the things I participated in was Albany State University's Poetry Festival. They do an annual National Poetry Festival. And what year was that? It must have been 2014, okay, maybe 2015. They had Haki Madhubuti come and share his work. And he was also, talking a lot about his new poetry book at the time called Run Toward Fear. Mm-hmm. That book and that statement, that phrase became my mantra. Run toward fear. Because once you get to it, it dissipates.
Yes.
It starts to disappear, and whatever is the thing that's causing that fear to occur in our bodies and our minds and our spirits becomes a tangible subject for us to be able to address. And so that mantra is really what led me into the process. I was homeschooling my 3 children. And once the fire happened in our apartment, I thought to myself, this is the only time in my life where I'm not going to have rent and utilities and all these different demands. This would be the time to take what I put into my home life every month, put that into travel, and give my children an experience that will last them a lifetime. And I was not driving at the time.
Wow.
So we flew and took buses and trains all over the country and got to meet so many people. And one of the blessings of it was that we got to experience a number of sustainable communities and to see what it was like to learn about land trusts and learn about different ways that folks were living. We stayed in everything from a trailer park to a mansion, homes that our hosts had built themselves, and got to really get a view of what's possible. Wow. And at the beginning of the journey, I had a notebook. I always have a notebook or 3. And at the beginning of the journey, in the back of my notebook, I wrote down that I wanted to end the journey with a 4-bedroom house on 5 acres of land. And I just focused with my children on making sure that our journey was centered around using our intuition, trusting ourselves, hearing and knowing the voice of our intuition and following that to build relationships, to build skills, and to build closer bonds with each other. And it was difficult and challenging and magical, and so many things came about as a result of those travels, and as a result of learning to be really authentically myself.
And what's interesting is just like the chance phone call with a poet that was clearly not chance by any,
Right.
you know, your journeys ultimately led you to Alabama, the Philly girl in rural Alabama,
Yes.
pursuing the things that you had really been interested in from childhood, but not having to worry about putting the coffee on the table for the husband every morning, which was part of that original goal.
But I'll tell you, I get up every morning and make my coffee for myself and quite enjoy it.
Exactly.
So the journey to Utah was very interesting. We have a very close family friend who called me up one day out of the clear blue sky. We hadn't spoken probably in a few years. And he called me up and said, would you be interested in a 3-bedroom house on 5 acres of land?
Huh.
I
Wow.
was literally in the process of putting in applications to rent an apartment because we had gotten to the close of the journey and it was like, okay, we just need a place to be. You know, forget all the other things. Let's just leave it alone. And I got that call from him.
Wow.
And not too long after I got that call from him, I got a call from a friend who I met at a conference while we were traveling, who just called to kind of check in and see how I was and what I was doing. And when we were talking, I said, oh, I've been, you know, putting in applications for an apartment and this, that, and the other. And the apartment that I loved so much that I was really interested in moving into was not for rent because they had decided to sell the building.
Okay.
And she said, well, why don't you just buy it? And I said, I think that's your white privilege talking. I don't have money or credit.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, oh, that's all you need, money and credit? I'll be your bank.
Oh.
And did. And
wow.
did. And after attempting to find a place in Albany and getting close to closing on a few different places, I finally said yes to Alabama. Okay. I was so interested in the 3 acres and in the 5 acres and the 3-bedroom house and all of that. But when I heard Alabama, I said, hell to the no. I don't want it. But over the course of a few months and a series of magical events, incredible events that just popped up out of nowhere, like being on a Zoom call and someone inviting me to come to France and participate in artist workshop. And I said, yes, I'd love to. I have no money. I have no idea how it'll happen, but I'll give you a yes and I'll give the universe a yes and we'll let it happen. Yeah. And 10 days later, I was in France.
Wow.
Riding a train from Paris to Val-Romay. Wow. And so those experiences opened me up to the ability to be vulnerable, to tell the truth of what I'm experiencing in the moment, what my challenges are, what I'm proud of and what's working, but to really be able to acknowledge what's not working so that I can be present with it without all the judgment that comes with, you know, I know we live in a society right now where everybody wants everybody to be positive all the time and just pretend like whatever difficulty is happening is just all a part of the plan and we're just going to flow with the plan. But the truth is sometimes acknowledging the difficulty that we're having opens us up to relationships and potentials that we have no idea are right around the corner.
And for you, and believe it or not, I mean, we're getting close. We're actually at time. So we're going to have you back, absolutely, because there's so much more we can discuss about this. But what I do want you to do before we close is, because all of that culminated in you deciding, yes, I'm going to Alabama, and you started Solomon's Garden, which is some of what you experienced along the way in terms of being a multi-generational community that has natural build housing and community class collaboration and prosperity building. And you even moved that into a corporate realm in terms of people can come and participate. So I want you to come back and talk more about just that piece too. But I want them to know how they can also contact you, because to understand Tannur is to know she is multifaceted and you want to hear the whole story. So, and you've had clients ranging from, you know, thriving communities to Fox affiliates to the United Nations Library in Geneva, because of the story and the inspiration that you've shown. So if people want to reach you before we have you back, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The best way is through our website, officialilogic.org. That's the best way. You get to learn all about where we came from and what we're doing right now. We have a number of trainings for folks who are interested in homesteading coming up, both this year and in the winter and spring of next year. And so that's the best way. But if folks want to connect on social media, Instagram is a great way. ilogic_Solomon's Garden. Solomon is my father, planter of many seeds. And ilogic_Solomon's Garden on Instagram is a great way as well.
Awesome. And definitely going to have you back as we go into 2023, since What the Why with Barbara Ann is going to continue and share more of the multifaceted things that you are doing. We've now heard about how you got to some of these things. Next, we want to hear about these things. So thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to have you come back and tell part two. We had another guest like that as well. We couldn't do it all in 1 hour. And even then, I think we could have done a third show, and who knows. So thank you so much, Tannur, for telling your story and being vulnerable about some things that other people can almost certainly relate to.
Thanks so much for having me. And, you know, I just want to encourage you to keep this show going. I've been really excited to watch myself and see some of the other guests that you've had on and the fabulous conversations. I've been inspired, and so thank you so much for what you're doing and for creating this platform. It's fabulous.
Well, thank you very much. And with that in mind, as our future episodes, our future episodes, as we transition from 2022 to 2023, please tune in for some of our upcoming guests. As I mentioned, I definitely want to have Tannur come back in 2023. But we also have coming up Tom Drucker, CEO of Consultants in Corporate Innovation and Specialist in Psychological Safety, Lisa Hillerin, who was our very first What the Why guest, who's coming back to talk about her transition and graduation with her master's degree at a much belated age, but better late than never. And we're going to kick off the new year with other exciting guests. We've already talked about Tannur, but we're also going to have Belle Walker, founder and lead consultant of Bellevue Consulting. Please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what our upcoming guests have to say about their journeys or additional information about their journeys. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Eastern Time, and Mondays at 3:30 p.m. in Eastern Time, and is also available on demand through RVN Television and Roku, and coming soon in 2023 to additional platforms. And please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life or your business or your career or your schooling, no matter how big or small, please join us again for more informative, inspirational, and amazing conversations with leaders such as Tannur, who have decided they wanted to make change, overcame or ran towards whatever fears and obstacles were in their path to find their purpose and live it.